In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Life is full of twists and turns. Some expect it, many not. And in those moments of uncertainty, we often try to control every little detail. It's human nature to hold on tight, to cling to our plans, our timelines, and our own limited understanding of how things should unfold. But what happens when life doesn't follow our script? What do we do when the road we've mapped out suddenly crumbles beneath our feet? This is where faith steps in, not just any faith, but a deep, unshakable trust in God's timing. Because here's the truth, God doesn't operate on our clocks or calendars. His timing is not bound by the constraints of human understanding, and His ways are far higher than ours. When we put everything in His hands, we're not giving up. We're stepping up. We're saying, God, I don't have all the answers, but I trust that you do. It takes courage to surrender. It takes boldness to say, I don't know how or when, but I know who. And that who is the one who created you, the one who sees the bigger picture when all you see are scattered pieces. Trusting God's timing means understanding that delays are not denials. Closed doors are often divine protection. Detours may feel like setbacks, but they're really setups for something greater. When we stop wrestling with life and start resting in God, we begin to see how perfectly He orchestrates every moment. He's never late, He's never early, He is always right on time. So, if you're in a season where things feel uncertain, if you're standing in the middle of chaos, wondering how it's all going to work out, take a deep breath and remind yourself, God's got this. Put it in His hands. Let Him take the lead, because His timing is not just perfect, it's always for your good. Faith is the bridge between where you are and where you're meant to be. It's not about knowing every step of the journey. It's about trusting the one who's leading you. Fear and doubt have a way of creeping in, whispering lies into your spirit. You're not good enough. You'll never make it. What if everything falls apart? But here's the thing, faith silences those voices. Faith reminds you that you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to believe in the one who does. When you put everything in God's hands, you're not operating from fear, you're stepping into trust. And trust doesn't mean you won't have questions. Trust doesn't mean you won't face challenges. It means that even in the storm, even in the uncertainty, you choose to believe that God is bigger than the obstacles in front of you. Faith isn't the absence of fear, it's the refusal to let fear have the final say. Faith isn't passive, it's active. It's walking forward even when the path isn't clear. It's showing up even when you feel unqualified. It's believing that if God brought you to this moment, He's already prepared the way for you to get through it. Faith doesn't just move mountains. It lifts your eyes off the problem and focuses them on the promise. And here's what I want you to understand. Doubt will always knock on your door, but you don't have to let it in. Fear will try to paralyze you, but faith will give you the strength to keep going. When you live with faith, you're saying, I don't have to see it to believe it. You're declaring that God's plans for your life are greater than anything you could imagine. So whatever you're facing right now, whatever feels impossible, overwhelming, or out of reach, remember this: faith is your key. Step out not because the way is clear, but because God's word is true. Believe beyond the fear, push past the doubt, and watch how God shows up when you dare to trust Him fully. Worry has a way of wrapping itself around your soul, doesn't it? It's heavy. It drains your energy, steals your peace, and keeps you up at night. And yet so many of us carry it like a badge of honor, as if worrying about something will somehow fix it. But let me ask you this. When has worrying ever solved a problem? When has stressing over the future ever changed it? Worry is a burden we were never meant to bear. When you put everything in God's hands, you're saying, I refuse to carry what was never mine to carry. You're saying, God, I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I trust you hold tomorrow. Here's the truth. Worry is rooted in control. We want to manage outcomes, predict the future, and ensure everything goes the way we planned. But life doesn't work like that. And the more we try to control what's uncontrollable, the more anxious we become. Letting go doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're giving it to God. The Bible tells us to cast our cares on Him because He cares for us. And that word cast is powerful. It means to throw, to hurl, to release. It's not a gentle act, it's intentional and decisive. It's saying, God, this is too heavy for me, take it. And when you do, something incredible happens. You find peace, not because the situation has changed, but because your perspective has. You realize that God is bigger than the problem you're facing. He's stronger than the storm you're in. And He's more than able to handle what feels impossible to you. So today, if you're carrying the weight of worry, I challenge you to let it go. Put it in God's hands. Stop trying to figure out every detail and start trusting the one who's already worked it out. Because when you release worry, you make room for peace. When you let go, you make room for God to step in and do what only He can do. There's a peace that comes when you stop fighting for control and start trusting God's plan. But surrender, it's not an easy word for most of us. We're taught to hold on, to push harder, to keep trying to make things happen in our own strength. And when life doesn't go the way we want, we get frustrated, we question, and we resist. But here's the truth. Surrender isn't about giving up. It's about giving over. It's about recognizing that God's plan is bigger, better, and more beautiful than anything we could ever imagine for ourselves. When you surrender, you're not losing control. You're placing it in the hands of the one who knows the beginning from the end. There's a story being written for your life. God is the author. He sees the whole picture while you're only looking at a single page. What might feel like a setback to you is often a setup for something greater. What looks like a closed door might be His way of protecting you from something you couldn't see. And what feels like waiting is often preparation for the blessing that's on the way. When you surrender to God, you're saying, I trust that your plan is greater than my understanding. That kind of trust brings peace. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. It's a peace that allows you to stand firm when life feels uncertain. A peace that calms your soul even in the middle of chaos. Surrender doesn't mean life will always be easy, but it does mean you won't have to face it alone. God's plan is perfect, not because it avoids every challenge, but because it promises to work all things together for your good. Even the pain, even the disappointments, even the things you don't understand right now, He's weaving it all into something beautiful. So, if you're holding on too tightly today, if you're trying to force things to happen or fix things that feel broken, I want to encourage you, let go. Surrender doesn't mean defeat. It means victory. It means allowing God to take the pen and write the story He's always had planned for your life. And in that surrender, you'll find peace like you've never known. Life doesn't always go the way we hope. There will be moments when the weight feels unbearable, when the obstacles seem insurmountable, and when the road ahead is covered in shadows of uncertainty. These are the moments that test your faith, the moments that stretch you, challenge you, and make you wonder if you can keep going. But here's the good news. You don't have to walk through it alone. When you put everything in God's hands, you trust Him. Trust isn't just for the sunny days. It's for the storms. It's for the moments when you feel like giving up. It's for the nights when you cry out, "Why, God?" and don't hear an answer. Resilience doesn't come from avoiding trials. It comes from enduring them with faith. Trials aren't meant to break you. They're meant to build you. They're not punishment. They're preparation. God often uses the hard seasons of life to shape your character, deepen your faith, and position you for something greater. Think about it. Gold is refined under fire. Diamonds are formed under pressure. The most beautiful stories of triumph always begin with moments of struggle. When you face trials, you have a choice. You can let the difficulty define you, or you can let it refine you. You can try to carry it all on your own, or you can hand it over to God and say, "Lord, I can't do this by myself, but I know you can." Resilience doesn't mean you won't feel the weight of what you're going through. It means you keep moving forward knowing that God's strength is made perfect in your weakness. And here's what I want you to remember. Every trial has an expiration date. Pain is temporary, but God's promises are eternal. You may not see the breakthrough today or even tomorrow, but if you keep trusting, keep believing, and keep putting everything in His hands, He will make a way. The same God who brought you through past storms will bring you through this one too. So don't give up. Don't let the weight of the trial convince you that God isn't working. Even when you can't see it, He's moving. Even when it feels impossible, He's already making a way. Resilience isn't about being strong on your own. It's about leaning into the one who is your strength. Trust Him in the hard times and watch how He turns your trial into a testimony. Obedience, it's a word that often makes us uncomfortable. It challenges us, pushes us out of our comfort zones, and demands that we trust God even when His instructions don't make sense. But here's the truth. There is freedom in obedience. There is peace, purpose, and power when you follow God's direction. Even when you don't fully understand where it's leading, sometimes God will ask you to take a step that feels impossible. He may ask you to leave something behind, to forgive someone who hurt you, to step into a role you feel unqualified for, or to wait when everything in you wants to move. And in those moments, the temptation is to hesitate, to doubt, or to let fear paralyze you. But delayed obedience is still disobedience. And every time you hold back, you're robbing yourself of the blessings God has already prepared on the other side of your yes. Obedience isn't about perfection, it's about trust. It's about believing that God's commands are not burdens, they're pathways to freedom. When He asks you to let go of something, it's because He has something better. When He closes a door, it's because He's protecting you from what's behind it. When He tells you to wait, it's because He's preparing you for what's next. Think about this. Every great breakthrough in the Bible started with a step of obedience. Noah obeyed when God told him to build an ark, even though it had never rained. Moses obeyed when God told him to stand before Pharaoh, even though he didn't feel equipped. Peter obeyed when Jesus told him to step out of the boat, Even though the waves were raging, in each case obedience unlocks the impossible. And the same is true for you. Obedience might feel risky, but it's where faith becomes action. It's where you say, God, I may not see the full picture, but I trust the one who's painting it. It's where you move not because it's easy, but because you believe in the one who's calling you forward. When you obey, you're not just following commands, you're stepping into alignment with God's plan. You're walking in the freedom of knowing you don't have to have all the answers because He does. You're releasing the weight of trying to control everything and choosing to let Him lead. And when you do, you'll find that obedience isn't about restriction. It's about stepping into the fullness of what God has for you. So today, whatever God is asking of you, don't hesitate. Don't let fear hold you back. Trust His voice, follow His lead, and know that your obedience will open the door to freedom, blessings, and a life beyond what you could ever imagine. God is a provider. He always has been, and He always will be. But here's the thing, sometimes in the middle of life's challenges, it's easy to lose sight of His blessing. When you're focused on the struggle, it's hard to see the ways God is sustaining you. Yet even in your darkest moments, His provision is all around you. Provision doesn't always come in the way we expect. We often pray for a specific answer, specific breakthrough, or a specific outcome. And when it doesn't happen exactly as we imagined, we think God isn't moving. But His provision isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, and steady. It's the strength to get through one more day. It's the unexpected kindness of a friend. It's the doors He closes to protect you from harm, and the ones He opens that lead to opportunities you didn't even know you needed. Think back to times when you didn't know how you would make it through. Remember the moments when you felt like giving up. Somehow, somewhere you made it. That wasn't luck. That was God. That was His hand guiding, sustaining, and providing exactly what you needed. Even if it didn't look like what you wanted, God's provision is always enough. It may not always come in abundance, but it will always meet your need. Look at the Israelites in the wilderness. He provided manna, daily bread to sustain them. Not too much, not too little, just enough for each day. And the same is true for you. He gives you what you need for the season you're in. He provides the wisdom, the resources, the strength, and the grace to keep going. But here's the key. You have to trust Him to provide. Worry and fear can blind you to His blessings. When you're constantly looking at what's missing, you miss what's already there. Gratitude opens your eyes to God's provision. It shifts your focus from scarcity to sufficiency, from what you lack to what you have. So today, take a moment to pause and look around. What has God already provided for you? Where's His hand been at work? He's working behind the scenes, preparing the way and giving you everything you need to walk through this season. When you put everything in His hands, you're not just trusting Him with your future, you're recognizing His faithfulness in your present. And when you see His provision, you're reminded that no matter what comes next, He will always be enough. It's not just a ritual or a routine. It's a conversation, a connection, and a lifeline. Prayer is how you invite God into your circumstances and how you align yourself with His will. It's where you speak your heart and where you listen for His voice. But let's be honest, prayer isn't always easy. Sometimes life gets busy and prayer feels like something you'll get to later. Other times, you may feel like your prayers aren't being heard. You pray for answers, and all you hear is silence. You pray for breakthrough, and all you see are closed doors. But let me remind you, God hears every prayer, and not a single word is wasted. Prayer is not about perfection, it's about connection. You don't have to come to God with the perfect words or a spotless heart. You just have to come. Prayer is the place where you bring your fears, your doubts, your joys and your struggles. It's where you say, God, I can do this on my own. It's where you lay your burdens at His feet and trust Him to carry what you cannot. And here's the beautiful thing about prayer. It changes you. Even when it doesn't change your situation immediately, it changes how you see it. Prayer shifts your perspective. It reminds you that you're not in this alone, that the Creator of the universe is walking with you, guiding you and working on your behalf. Prayer isn't just about asking, it's about listening. Sometimes the most powerful moments in prayer come when you stop speaking and start waiting. It's in the stillness that God whispers His peace into your heart. It's in the quiet moments that He gives you clarity, direction, and strength. And don't underestimate the power of persistent prayer. Some breakthroughs take time. Some answers come in ways you didn't expect. But every time you pray, you're sowing seeds of faith. You're building a foundation of trust. And you're inviting God to do what only He can do. So whether you're in a season of joy or a season of struggle, don't neglect your time in prayer. Make it a priority. Make it personal. Pour out your heart to Him, and then sit quietly and let Him fill you with His presence. Because when you stay connected to God through prayer, you're reminded that no matter how big the challenge, your God is bigger. We live in a world that craves instant results. We want answers now, breakthroughs now, success now. But God doesn't work on our timeline. He works on His. And His timing, though it may not align with our expectations, is always perfect. Trusting God's timing requires patience. And patience isn't passive. It's active faith in action. There's a reason why God doesn't always give us what we want when we want it. Sometimes He's preparing the blessing so that it's ready for you. Other times He's preparing you so that you're ready for the blessing. Delay isn't denial. It threats divine alignment. When you trust His timing, you're saying, God, believe that what you have for me is worth the wait. Think about it. A seed doesn't become a tree overnight. There's a process, a season of planting, watering, and waiting. During that waiting season, you don't see the growth happening beneath the surface, but it's there. Roots are taking hold, foundations are being laid, and the seed is being prepared to bear fruit. The same is true for your life. You may not see the progress right now, but trust that God is working behind the scenes. The waiting season can be hard though, can't it? It's easy to grow frustrated, to question if God has forgotten you, or to wonder if you've been overlooked. But let me remind you, God's delays are not His denials. Every moment of waiting is an opportunity for growth. It's in the waiting that your faith is stretched, your character is refined, and your trust in God deepens. Remember, God sees the bigger picture. He knows what you need and when you need it. If He hasn't opened the door yet, it's because He's either protecting you or preparing you for something greater. And when you rush ahead of God's timing, you step out of alignment with His plan. But when you wait on Him, you allow His plan to unfold in its fullness. So don't despise the waiting season. Use it as a time to grow closer to God. Use it to develop patience, perseverance, and trust. Because when the time is right, God will open the door. And when He does, you look back and realize that His timing was worth the wait. Trust the process. Trust the pauses. Trust that God is never late and is never early. He's always right on time. And what He has for you is more than you could ever ask, think, or imagine. Every person is created with a purpose, a unique calling that only they can fulfill. But sometimes life can get in the way of that purpose. We get distracted by the busyness of daily life, the noise of the world, and the pressures of what others expect from us. You begin to wonder, what am I really here for? What is the point of all of this? When you put everything in God's hands, you're choosing to live with purpose, not by accident. Purpose is not something you stumble upon. It's something you discover through alignment with God's will. Your life is not random, and your circumstances are not without meaning. God has a plan for you that's far greater than what you could ever imagine on your own. Living with purpose means that your actions, your choices, and your decisions are guided by a deeper conviction. It's about waking up every day knowing that you're on a mission, that your life matters, and that your gifts and talents are meant to make a difference. Your purpose may not always be glamorous, but it's always significant. Every step you take in obedience, every act of love, every seed of kindness you plant, all of it is part of the bigger picture God is creating. Sometimes we feel like we have to have it all figured out before we can begin to live with purpose. But the truth is, purpose is often discovered through action. When you step out in faith, trusting God's guidance, you'll begin to see where He's leading you. And sometimes the first step toward your purpose is simply surrendering to God's plan and letting Him direct your path. When you align your life with God's will, you're not just living for today, you're living for eternity. Your purpose isn't about building your own kingdom. It's about being a vessel for God to use in His grand plan. It's about serving others, making an impact, and leaving a legacy that reflects His love and grace. So today, ask yourself, am I living with purpose? Am I aligning my life with God's will, or am I chasing after things that don't truly matter? When you put everything in God's hands, you're choosing to live with intentionality. You're choosing to pursue His plan over your own, knowing that His purpose for you will always lead to a life that is more fulfilling and meaningful than you could ever create on your own. When you live with purpose, you live with passion. You live with conviction. You live knowing that every day is an opportunity to fulfill the calling God has placed on your life. And in that you will find joy, fulfillment, and a sense of peace that comes from knowing you're right where God wants you to be. As we wrap up, I want you to remember this. When you put everything in God's hands, you are choosing to let go of the things that weigh you down and embracing a life of trust, peace, and purpose. It's not about having everything figured out, because God already knows the path ahead. It's not about being perfect, because God is perfect and He works through our imperfections. Trusting God means letting go of the need to control everything and allowing Him to be the true leader of your life. It means surrendering your worries, your timing, your plans, and your desires to the one who created you, knows you, and loves you beyond measure. It's about understanding that God's plan for your life is far greater than anything you could ever dream or imagine. And while you may not always understand His timing or His methods, you can always trust His heart. He is faithful, He is good, and He is working all things together for your good. When you walk through life, you will face challenges. but you don't have to face them alone. God's provision, His peace, His strength, and His purpose are available to you every single day. You're not walking this journey in your own power. You are walking in His. So today, whatever you're holding on to, I challenge you to let go. Put it in God's hands. Trust that He will guide you, provide for you, and lead you to the purpose He has prepared for you. As you step into His plan, you will experience a life full of joy, peace, and fulfillment. Because when you trust God with everything, you discover that He can do more with your life than you ever could. The journey of trusting God fully is not always easy, but it is always worth it. And when you do, you'll find that He's more than enough for every need, every moment, and every season. You ever seen a tree grow overnight? Of course not. But you've seen folks try to microwave their faith, spray once, check the box, and wonder why their spiritual life's wilting. Let me tell you, growth ain't instant. It's intentional. And if you want to thrive, you've got to follow the rules of the gardener. Let me tell you something. You don't wake up in the morning and say, I'll eat next week. You don't ignore your body's hunger and expect to thrive. But so many of us treat our souls like an afterthought. We starve ourselves spiritually and wonder why we're walking around empty, why our peace feels brittle, why our joy flickers out like a candle in the wind. Your soul demands nourishment. You can't live off crumbs from last year's prayers or stale devotionals you half remember. Spiritual growth isn't a microwave meal. It's a daily feast. You've got to sit down at the table every single morning and feed that hunger. Crack open the Word like it's your lifeline. Talk to God like He's sitting across from you, because He is. And don't just talk, listen. Let His truth sink into your bones like rain soaking parched earth. You want to grow? Stop neglecting your soul. You wouldn't plant a seed and refuse to water it. You wouldn't raise a child and forget to feed them. Consistency isn't about rules. It's about relationship. It's showing up day after day, even when your knees ache and your mind wanders. Because this is how roots dig deep. This is how you build a life that doesn't collapse when the ground shakes. 1, embrace daily prayer and meditation. The first and perhaps most powerful rule for spiritual growth is the practice of daily prayer and meditation. These sacred moments are your direct connection to the divine. They allow you to tune into the voice of your spirit, listen to your inner guidance, and receive the strength and wisdom needed to navigate the world. Prayer isn't just about asking for help, it's about building a relationship with the Creator, taking time to express gratitude, reflect on your life, and allow yourself to be open to divine direction. Meditation helps still the noise of the world, clears your mind, and deepens your sense of inner peace. When you commit to these practices each day, you develop a deeper understanding of yourself and your connection to the universe, which is the foundation for spiritual growth. 2, practice self-discipline and inner control. Self-discipline is vital for spiritual growth. To move forward on your spiritual journey, you must learn to control your impulses, your thoughts, and your emotions. Every thought you entertain, every action you take, and every word you speak has a direct impact on your spiritual life. This rule requires the discipline to stay true to your values, even when it's tempting to give in to worldly desires. It's about mastering your inner self, staying focused on your purpose, and not being distracted by the fleeting things of the world. The more you practice discipline, the more you grow in spiritual maturity. becoming stronger and more resilient in the face of life's challenges. Self-discipline opens the door to true freedom because it empowers you to control your responses rather than letting external circumstances control you. 3, cultivate a heart of service. Spiritual growth is not only about inward reflection, but also about how we interact with the world around us. Cultivating a heart of service, offering love, support, and kindness to others is a crucial aspect of spiritual growth. When you serve others, you step outside of your own needs and desires, shifting your focus to the well-being of those around you. Service teaches humility, compassion, and empathy. It's a practice that deepens your understanding of the interconnectedness of all life. Through service, you develop a selflessness that aligns with the values of love, kindness, and grace. As you give of yourself, you also receive, and your spiritual life flourishes in ways that cannot be measured. The more you serve, the more you grow spiritually, and the more you realize that the true essence of life is found in giving. 4, seek wisdom and knowledge. Spiritual growth requires an ongoing commitment to learning and expanding your understanding. This rule emphasizes the importance of seeking wisdom and knowledge through spiritual and engagement with spiritual teachings, whether it's reading sacred texts, attending sacred gatherings, or learning from wise mentors. Spiritual growth is a journey of continuous enlightenment. Knowledge expands your vision, sharpens your mind, and deepens your understanding of the divine. Wisdom helps you navigate the complexities of life with clarity and discernment, making better choices and understanding your place in the grand design of the universe. The pursuit of wisdom is a never-ending process, and it opens your heart and mind to new possibilities, enriching your spiritual journey. 5, build and foster strong relationships. No one walks their spiritual journey alone. Building and fostering strong relationships with others who share your values and beliefs is essential for spiritual growth. Relationships are mirrors of your own spiritual life. They reflect your strengths, weaknesses, and the areas in need of growth. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow, encourage you to strive for your best, and support you in moments of doubt. Community plays a critical role in spiritual growth because it provides a space for shared learning, growth, and collective wisdom. It's through relationships that you find accountability, support, and a deeper sense of belonging. As you connect with others, you also connect more deeply with your own spirit, and this connection fuels your journey forward. Build and foster strong relationships. No one's spiritual journey is meant to be walked alone. Relationships are integral to our growth because they help us see ourselves more clearly. Our interactions with others, whether with family, friends, mentors, or spiritual communities, mirror back to us aspects of our own character that we might not see on our own. Relationships challenge us to grow, to forgive, to extend grace, and to love more deeply. The people you surround yourself with have the power to uplift you or bring you down. It's essential to seek out relationships that support your growth, that encourage you to become the best version of yourself. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to think differently, who push you to reach higher, and who walk alongside you on your journey. Relationships are not just about receiving, they're also about giving. The more you invest in the lives of others, the more your own life is enriched. You find purpose in your connections, And through those relationships, you discover more about your own spirituality. As you embrace these 5 rules: daily prayer and meditation, self-discipline, a heart of service, the pursuit of wisdom, and fostering strong relationships, you will find yourself moving toward greater spiritual growth. But know this journey will not always be easy. There will be times when you feel weary, when the path seems unclear, and when you question whether it's all worth it. But I promise you, every step forward is a step toward the divine purpose that was always meant for you. The process of spiritual growth is gradual, and it's okay to take it one day at a time. Be patient with yourself and trust that the divine is guiding you toward your highest potential. As you walk this path, remember that spiritual growth is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about becoming more aligned with who you were always meant to be, more connected to the divine and more in tune with the world around you. With every prayer, every act of service, every moment of self-discipline, every piece of wisdom gained, and every relationship built, you move closer to the spiritual life that is waiting for you. Keep walking, keep growing, and keep believing, because your journey is far from over and the best is yet to come. As we come to the close of this powerful journey of reflection and growth, I want to leave you with these final thoughts. Spiritual growth is not a destination. It's a continuous evolving process, a journey that unfolds with each choice you make, with each day that you walk this earth. It's about embracing the full spectrum of your experience, the moments of joy and the moments of challenge, the quiet reflections and the active service, the wisdom you gain from learning and the strength you develop from your trials. Never forget that your spiritual journey is uniquely yours. It will not look like anyone else's. It will have its own rhythm, its own timing, and its own lessons. There will be moments of clarity where the path seems clear and you can see the divine purpose unfolding before you. And there will be moments of doubt when the road ahead seems uncertain and the weight of the world feels too heavy to bear. But let me tell you this, those moments of uncertainty, those challenges, they are not obstacles. They are opportunities for deeper growth, for a deeper connection with the divine, and for a deeper understanding of who you truly are. You are stronger than you realize. You have within you the power to overcome any difficulty, to rise above any challenge, and to continue moving forward step by step. When life brings its trials and tribulations, know that they are not signs of your failure, but invitations to grow, to evolve, and to transform. Every moment you face with faith and courage is a moment that shapes you into the person you are meant to be. So, as you continue your spiritual journey, take these 5 rules. Embrace daily prayer and meditation. Practice self-discipline. Cultivate a heart of service. Seek wisdom and knowledge and build strong relationships. And live them with all your heart. These rules are not just principles to follow. They are the very lifeblood of spiritual growth. They will guide you, uplift you, and transform you. Know that you are never alone on this journey. There is a divine presence that walks with you every step of the way, guiding you, loving you, and empowering you to reach new heights of spiritual maturity. And as you grow, you will find that your life becomes a beacon for others, a light that shows them the way, a testimony of what is possible when you commit to your spiritual growth. Let this journey be one of transformation. Let it be one of purpose, one of faith, one of grace. With each day that passes, with each moment you choose to grow, you are becoming the person you were always meant to be. Keep pressing forward, keep believing, and keep trusting in the divine process. Because, my friends, the best is yet to come. Thank you for taking this time to reflect, to learn, and to grow. Your spiritual journey is just beginning, and I can't wait to see all that you will achieve. Walk in faith, walk in love, and remember that you are never, ever alone. The divine presence is always with you. And as you continue to grow, you will begin to see that everything you need has already been placed within you. Keep moving forward with confidence and hope, because the path of spiritual growth is a beautiful one, and it leads to the most profound and fulfilling life imaginable. Imagine for a moment the vastness of the universe. Billions of stars scattered across the night sky, galaxies stretching far beyond what the human eye can see. Yet Scripture reminds us that God not only created them all, but also knows each star by name. If He holds the cosmos together in perfect order, how much more capable is He of holding your life in His hands? God's sovereignty means He reigns supreme. There is no situation too complex, no problem too overwhelming, and no enemy too powerful for Him to handle. The storms of life may seem chaotic to us, but to Him they are like the waves He calmed with a single word. His power is unmatched and His authority is limitless. Sometimes we feel the need to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. But friend, that weight was never meant to be yours. God invites us to lay it down at His feet because He is strong enough to bear it. He spoke the universe into existence. Surely He can speak peace into your heart. When we reflect on His sovereignty, we are reminded that He is not a distant or indifferent God. He is personal, compassionate, and fully aware of every detail of your life. The very hairs on your head are numbered, and not a single sparrow falls to the ground without His knowledge. This is the God who invites you to let Him handle it. It's time to stop striving in your own strength and start resting in His. Trust His power, trust His purpose, and trust His plan. When we acknowledge that He is sovereign, we can release our fears and anxieties into His capable hands. How often do we convince ourselves that we can handle it all? That if we just try a little harder, work a little longer, or think a little deeper, we can fix every problem, solve every mystery, and conquer every obstacle. Yet time and time again, life proves that our human efforts, no matter how sincere, have limits. We live in a world where control feels like the ultimate goal. We want to control our careers, our relationships, our finances, even the future. But the harder we try to grip the reins of life, the more we realize that they slip through our fingers. Anxiety arises when plans fall apart. Disappointment sets in when results don't match our expectations. And exhaustion takes over when we try to carry burdens never meant for us. The truth is, we were never designed to shoulder it all. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 19:21, many of the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. No matter how carefully we plan, God's purpose will always be greater. Our attempts to control every outcome often lead us away from peace and into frustration. Think about it. How many sleepless nights have been spent worrying over things that were out of your hands? How often have you tried to force open a door that God Himself may have closed for your good? The more we strive to take control, the more we discover how little control we truly have. But here's the good news. You don't have to carry it all. God never intended for you to. When we stop relying on our own strength and surrender to His will, we find freedom. Freedom from the pressure to always be perfect. Freedom from the fear of failure. Freedom to rest in the knowledge that God is at work, even when we don't see it. So stop exhausting yourself by trying to handle what only God can. Let go of the futile pursuit of control and let God take His rightful place in your life. When you trust Him to handle it, you'll discover that He can do immeasurably more than all you ask or imagine. Life is full of trials, unexpected storms that shake us to the core, challenges that feel too heavy to bear, and seasons of waiting that test every ounce of our patience. In those moments, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and wonder if we'll ever see the other side. But here's the truth. God uses even the darkest valleys to accomplish His greatest work. When we face trials, our first instinct is often to fix them ourselves. We scheme, we plan, we stress, and we push forward, hoping to find a way out. Yet, time and time again, we find that our strength isn't enough. The waves are too strong, the wind's too fierce. That's when faith steps in and whispers, let God handle it. Trusting God through trials doesn't mean denying the pain or pretending everything is fine. It means acknowledging the difficulty while believing that God is greater than the storm. It's the kind of trust that says, Lord, I don't understand why this is happening, but I believe you are still good. I believe you are still in control. The Bible is full of promises for those who trust Him in hard times. Romans 8:28 reminds us, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. That doesn't mean every trial is good, but it does mean that God can use even the worst situations to bring about something beautiful. Look at the story of Joseph. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery and thrown into prison. His life seemed like one tragedy after another. But Joseph trusted God, and in the end he could say to his brothers, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. When we trust God through trials, we are placing our faith in a God who sees the whole picture. While we see only the momentary pain, He sees the eternal purpose. While we are focused on the problem, He is working out the solution. So when the trials of life come, and they will, don't carry them alone. Lay them at the feet of the one who promised never to leave you or forsake you. Trust that even when the way forward is unclear, God is already paving the path. He is faithful. He is able, and He will see you through. When life becomes overwhelming, where do we turn? For many, the instinct is to seek solutions, consult friends, scour the internet, or rely on our own ingenuity. But the power of prayer reminds us that surrendering to God is not a last resort. It is the first and greatest step we can take. Prayer is much more than a spiritual ritual. It is an act of humility, a declaration that we need God's help, and an invitation for Him to take control. When we bow our heads in prayer, we are essentially saying, God, I can't handle this on my own, but I know you can. It's a simple yet profound act of letting go and allowing God to step into the situation. Philippians 4:6-7 tells us, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Prayer is the bridge between our anxieties and God's peace. It's where we release our worries and receive His assurance. Consider Jesus Himself the ultimate example of surrender through prayer. In the Garden of Gethsemane, as He faced the cross, He prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." Luke 22:42. In His humanity, He felt the weight of His trial, but in His divinity, He trusted the Father's plan. His prayer wasn't just words, it was a full surrender to the will of God. When we pray, we aren't just asking God to fix our problems, we are aligning our hearts with His will. We are handing Him the burdens we cannot carry and trusting Him to work in ways we cannot see. It's not about presenting a wish list to God, but about fostering a relationship where we listen, trust, and obey. Prayer doesn't always change our circumstances immediately, but it changes us. It strengthens our faith, renews our hope, and gives us the courage to keep moving forward. And often it is through prayer that God provides the clarity, wisdom, and peace we desperately need. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, don't let prayer be your last resort. Let it be your first response. Let it be the place where you surrender your fears, frustrations, and uncertainties to a God who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine. Prayer is the act of placing your trust in God's hands and saying, "Lord, I trust you to handle it." There is a peace that the world cannot offer, a calm that doesn't come from circumstances or solutions, but from the act of surrendering to God. When we let go of our burdens and allow God to handle them, we experience a peace that defies all understanding. Think about the times in your life when you've tried to carry it all. Every worry, every responsibility, every fear. The weight is overwhelming, isn't it? Look, I said I'm sorry about a minute ago. Sleepless nights, anxious thoughts, and the constant sense that it's all on your shoulders. That's the world's way. Hold on tighter, try harder, and don't let go. But God's way is the opposite. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Matthew 11:28. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing the illusion of control and trusting the one who holds the universe in His hand. It's saying, "Lord, I don't have all the answers, but I trust that you do. I don't see the way forward, but I trust that you are already there." The peace that comes from letting go is not passive, it's active faith. It's choosing to trust God when the storm is raging. It's deciding to rest in Him even when the situation seems hopeless. And that peace doesn't depend on the outcome. It depends on the presence of God. Remember the story of the disciples in the boat during the storm. The wind was howling, the waves were crashing, and fear gripped their hearts. But where was Jesus? He was asleep. Not because He didn't care, but because He had perfect peace. And when the disciples woke Him in their panic, He simply said, "Peace still." Mark 4:39-12. The wind and waves obeyed Him. And in that moment, the disciples learned that true peace comes from trusting the one who commands the storm. When you let go and trust God, you'll find that the peace He offers isn't dependent on your circumstances. It's a peace that can't be explained, only experienced. It's the quiet assurance that no matter what happens, God is in control. So stop striving. Stop holding on so tightly to the things you cannot control. Lay them down at the feet of Jesus. Let Him handle it. Yeah. And as you do, you will discover the profound truth of Isaiah 26:3. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. How often do we find ourselves asking, why God? Why did this happen? Why am I facing this challenge? Why does life feel so uncertain? Our human understanding is limited, and when life doesn't make sense, we wrestle with the unknown. But the truth is, God's wisdom far surpasses anything we can comprehend. Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." In those words lies a powerful truth. God sees the full picture while we see only a small piece of the puzzle. What may seem confusing, unfair, or even hopeless to us is part of a much bigger plan that God is orchestrating in His infinite wisdom. Think about a child who doesn't understand why their parent says no to something they want. To the child, it feels unfair or even cruel. But the parent with greater knowledge and experience knows what is best in the long run. In the same way, our perspective is finite, but God's perspective is eternal. He knows the beginning, the end, and every detail in between. When we rely solely on our understanding, we limit ourselves to what we can see, hear, and figure out. But faith calls us to trust God even when we don't understand His ways. Proverbs 305:6 encourages us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight." Trusting God doesn't mean we'll always get immediate answers, but it does mean we can have confidence that His plan is always good. Consider the story of Job. From a human perspective, his suffering seemed senseless. He lost his family, his wealth, and his health. Yet he held on to his faith in God's wisdom. In the end, Job's story wasn't just about his trials. It was about God's greater purpose and the restoration that followed. When life doesn't make sense, let God handle it. Trust that His wisdom is greater than your understanding. Instead of asking why, ask what. What is God teaching me in this season? What is His purpose for me in this situation? You may not have all the answers, but you have the assurance that God does. He is not surprised by your circumstances, and He is never at a loss for solutions. Trust His wisdom, and you'll find that even when life feels uncertain, His guidance is steady. And the Bible is filled with stories of ordinary people who faced extraordinary challenges and saw God's power when they chose to let Him handle it. These examples remind us that surrendering to God is not a sign of weakness, but a profound act of faith. Take Moses, for example, called by God to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, Exodus 3:11. But God's response was clear: "I will be with you." When Moses finally surrendered to God's call, the impossible became possible. Seas parted, plagues came and went, and an enslaved nation was set free. Then there's Joseph, whose life seemed to spiral out of control. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused and thrown into prison. Joseph had every reason to give up, but he didn't. He trusted that God had a greater purpose even when he couldn't see it. Years later, when he stood as a ruler in Egypt, Joseph was able to tell his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Genesis 50:20. We also see surrender in the story of Esther, a young queen who faced the terrifying prospect of approaching the king to save her people. It was a move that could have cost her life, but she trusted in God's plan, saying, "If I perish," 4:16. Courage and surrender led to the deliverance of an entire nation. And of course, there is Jesus, the ultimate example of surrender. In the Garden of Gethsemane, facing the weight of the cross, he prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will but yours be done." Luke 22:42. His surrender to the Father's will brought salvation to the world. These stories have one thing in common. When people surrendered their plans, fears and struggles to God, he worked in ways far beyond what they could have imagined. Moses saw deliverance, Joseph saw redemption, Esther saw salvation. Jesus brought eternal life. Their lives show us that God's power is made perfect in our surrender. When we let go and trust him, he can take what seems broken and make it whole. He can turn what seems like a dead end into a path of victory. So when you face challenges that seem insurmountable, remember these examples. God has not changed. The same God who parted the Red Sea, redeemed Joseph, and saved Esther's people is the God who stands ready to work in your life today. Let go of the need to control and let God handle it. Trust that he can take your surrender and turn it into something beautiful for his glory. In a world that values speed and instant results, waiting can feel like an unbearable challenge. We want answers now, breakthroughs today, and solutions immediately. But God doesn't operate on our schedule. His timing is not just different, it's perfect. Ecclesiastes 3:11 reminds us, he has made everything beautiful in its time. This verse is a powerful reminder that God's timing is never rushed and it's never late. Well, we see only the present moment. God sees the beginning, the end, and every step in between. Consider the story of Abraham and Sarah. God promised them a child, but the fulfillment of that promise didn't come for years. In their impatience, they tried to take matters into their own hands, which only led to complications and heartache. But when God's appointed time arrived, Sarah gave birth to Isaac, the son of promise. Delay was not a denial, it was preparation for something far greater than they could have imagined. Sometimes we mistake waiting for inaction, but in reality, God is always at work. During the waiting season, he is shaping us, strengthening us, and preparing us for what's ahead. Just like a seed planted in the soil, growth takes time. The roots must develop before the fruit appears. Trusting God's timing means believing that he is working behind the scenes even when we don't see immediate results. Another example is the story of Lazarus who was sick. He didn't rush to heal him. In fact, he waited until Lazarus had died. To those watching, it seemed like Jesus had come too late. But in his perfect timing, Jesus performed a greater miracle by raising Lazarus from the dead, showing his power over life and death. The delay wasn't neglect, it was part of a divine plan to reveal God's glory. Waiting on God's timing requires faith and patience. It's trusting that his plans are better than our own and that his ways are higher than ours. Isaiah 40:30-31 promises, "But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Waiting is not wasted when we trust in Him. So, when it feels like God is silent or the answers are delayed, remember that His timing is not a reflection of His inaction or lack of care. It's a reminder that He is working everything out for your good and His glory. Trust the one who knows the right time for every blessing, every breakthrough, and every miracle. Let go of your timeline and rest in the assurance that God's timing is always perfect. Fear is one of the greatest obstacles to trusting God. It whispers doubts, stirs anxiety, and keeps us paralyzed when we're called to step out in faith. But faith and fear cannot coexist. One will always overshadow the other. To let God handle it, we must choose faith over fear. Fear comes when we focus on the what ifs of life. What if I fail? What if things don't go the way I hope? What if this situation gets worse? These thoughts consume us when we look at the size of the problem instead of the greatness of our God. But faith shifts our perspective. It reminds us of God's power, His promises, and His presence. Throughout Scripture, God repeatedly tells His people, do not fear. Why? Because He knows our natural tendency is to be afraid when we face uncertainty or difficulty. Yet, every time He says, do not fear, it is followed by a reassurance of His presence. Isaiah 41:10 declares, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Take the story of David and Goliath. From a human perspective, David had every reason to be afraid. Goliath was a giant, a seasoned warrior, and seemingly unbeatable. But David wasn't focused on the size of the giant. He was focused on the size of his God. His faith allowed him to say, the Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. Samuel 17:37. David's faith in God gave him the courage to face what others feared. Similarly, Peter's experience walking on water teaches us how faith overcomes fear. When Peter stepped out of the boat, he was walking toward Jesus, defying the laws of nature. But the moment he shifted his focus to the wind and the waves, fear took over and he began to sink. Jesus immediately reached out and said, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Matthew 14:31. The lesson is clear. When our eyes are fixed on Jesus, faith prevails. When we focus on the storm, fear takes control. Faith doesn't mean ignoring the reality of challenges. It means trusting God in the midst of them. It's believing that He is bigger than any obstacle, stronger than any opposition, and faithful to fulfill His promises. Hebrews 11:01 defines faith as confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Choosing faith over fear is a daily decision. Is declaring, God, I trust you even when I don't see the outcome. I believe you are in control even when I feel uncertain. When we let go of fear and hold on to faith, we open the door for God to work powerfully in our lives. So whatever giants you're facing today, whether they are fears of failure, uncertainty, or loss, remember that faith is your weapon. Let God handle your fears and let your faith rise above the storm. For when faith leads, fear has no place. One of the greatest reasons to let God handle the challenges in our lives is His unwavering faithfulness. Unlike the shifting sands of human promises, God's faithfulness is eternal, steadfast, and unchanging. He has never failed and He never will. Deuteronomy 7:9 declares, "Know therefore that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping His covenant of love to 1,000 generations of those who love Him and keep His commandments." This verse reminds us that God's faithfulness is not conditional on our circumstances. It is rooted in His unchanging nature. Even when life feels uncertain, God remains constant, fulfilling His promises and sustaining us through every season. Think about the Israelites wandering in the wilderness. Despite their doubts, complaints, and unfaithfulness, God remained faithful to them. He provided manna from heaven, water from a rock, and a pillar of cloud and fire to guide them. His faithfulness was not dependent on their actions, but on His covenant with them. The same is true for us today. Lamentations 3:22-23 beautifully reminds us, "Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. For His compassions never fail, they are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." Every morning God's faithfulness meets us with fresh mercies, equipping us to face whatever lies ahead. Consider also the story of Paul, shipwrecked, beaten, imprisoned, and persecuted. Paul endured trials that would have crushed many, yet he never doubted God's faithfulness. In 2 Timothy 4:17-18, Paul writes, "But the Lord stood at my side and gave me strength. The Lord will rescue me from every evil attack and will bring me safely to His heavenly kingdom." Paul's confidence wasn't in his own strength, but in the faithfulness of God to see him through. God's faithfulness doesn't mean we won't face hardships. It means that in the midst of every trial, we can rest assured that He is with us, working for our good and His glory. Romans 8:28 promises, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." Even when life doesn't make sense, His faithfulness ensures that every moment is part of His greater plan. When you place your trust in God's faithfulness, you can let go of the need to control and let Him take the reins. His track record is perfect. He has never failed His people, and He never will. Whatever you're walking through today, remember that God has not forgotten you. He is faithful to carry you, provide for you, and fulfill every promise He has made. So when life feels overwhelming, cling to the truth of Psalm 36:5. "Your love, Lord, reaches to the heavens, your faithfulness to the skies." Let this truth be your anchor. Let God handle your challenges, for He is faithful to see you through. Trust Him and you will find that His faithfulness is more than enough. In conclusion, the call to let God handle it is not just an invitation. It is a declaration of trust and surrender. It is acknowledging that while we may not have all the answers or solutions, we serve a God who is more than capable. His wisdom, His timing, His faithfulness, and His power are unmatched. And when we choose to let go and trust Him, we step into a place of peace, confidence, and hope. The Bible is filled with reminders of God's ability to handle the impossible. From the lives of Moses, David, and Esther to the ultimate example of Jesus, we see that surrender is not a sign of weakness, but an act of faith. By letting God handle our struggles, we open the door for Him to work in ways we could never have imagined. It is in our surrender that He shows Himself faithful, delivering us not just from circumstances, but into His perfect will for our lives. So whatever you may be facing today, whatever challenges or burdens you carry, I encourage you to lay them down before God. Trust in His power, rest in His peace, and know that He's always working for your good. Let go of fear, let go of control, and let God handle it. His promises are true, His faithfulness is unshakable, and His love will never fail. When you trust Him fully, you'll find that there is no better place to be than in His hands.